It's you. It's me. I'm Nathan. You're you. It's season 3, episode 169 of You'll Die Trying. This is always been a show which pulls back the curtain, takes down walls brick by brick, and exposes the true hearts of those caring for those you love most. And I am sitting here in this moment. Yet is number 16 at radio. I just got word that again this week, this song, Yet, is top 3 most added songs at radio. Taylor Swift, NSYNC, and yours truly. It's overwhelming. It's exciting to know that one day I was flipping through a Rolling Stone magazine back in the day, and I would look for the charts, and I said I would be there one day. And here we are, and it is because of hard work, you and your support, and just not stopping that we're here. I have a great team, and I want to thank all of you for supporting Yet. Be sure to stream Yet. Link is in the show notes. Share with a friend, and consider calling radio, texting radio, whatever you do at radio. Hey, play Yet by Nathan Morris. We're going to keep going up. Let's go. And I want you to know that I'm enjoying every moment. I'm not looking at the horizon for the finish line, right? This journey, this experience has been absolutely incredible. And I want to thank you for being a part of it with me. Yet at radio, number 16. And be sure to pre-save right now. My song, Last Time, releases this Friday, the 27th. 10/27, Last Time, releasing 10/27. Pre-save link right now in the show notes. And last little bit of housekeeping. Consider subscribing. TikTok, subscribers only, live each and every Sunday, 10/9 Central. Exclusive looks, first listens, first looks. Exclusive content, $5.99 a month. You can buy a latte, one latte for $5.99. You can hang out with all of us, this great community, and get first dibs on all kinds of really cool stuff. Like the last few weeks, my friends, my subscribers over on TikTok at Nathan Morris Music helped me come up with the content, the stories for the episodes of the podcast. You'll Die Trying. So I want you to meet me there, and I appreciate you meeting me here on this episode 169. Let's talk spooky. They don't make a book. They don't write a book. They don't make anything that says, hey, this is what's going to happen, and it's going to blow up in the best way, and then all of a sudden, all the shit's going to hit the fan, and you got to figure it out. So we're going to give you the step-by-step guidebook. They don't. Meaning, here we are. We're rebuilding a website. We're creating an infrastructure of a very organized operation, because as a musician, as a creator, as a podcast host, as a business person, you have to create processes. And we've been thrusted into this in the best way. So I want to let you know that I really appreciate the support. It means so very much to me. And everybody who visits me on nathanmorrismusic.com, it's getting ready to get a facelift, who subscribes, who follows exclusive content at YouTube, you can rest assured that everything is intentional. We are working very hard to create meaningful content we believe in, and content that is unique to each platform. And I want to thank you, because through your support, through your time, most importantly, money is great and all, but it's not replenishable time. You can't get it back. Money you can earn. And so I want to say also thanks for spending it. But I just want to add that once again. And it's spooky season. And last week on TikTok, I was talking about near-death experiences. And I did a video, and it really resonated, because there's a show on Netflix. It's called Surviving Death. And it's really interesting because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what side you're on as far as beliefs, whether it's faith-based or what not. The show itself has this very captivating, the stories are amazing at how so many people who have had near-death experiences or have died or know someone, they align in so many magnificent ways, and they're all across the United States, all over the world, but particularly across the United States for this show. And I was talking about my loved one who had a death experience. They died and flatlined and had CPR being administered to them as they're being rushed to the hospital. and they recall seeing their body, seeing the staff, the hospital workers, nurses, and doctors working on their body, and they were fine, meaning they were comfortable. They were at peace. They knew that everyone that were going to be left behind were going to be okay, but they had to come back. And to this day, they suffer from sadness, anxiety, depression because of what they experienced from the standpoint of peace. And they want the peace back because this world is tedious and heavy. So it got me thinking, and what we're going to do is I have an ask for you or of you. If you or someone you love or know has had a near-death or death experience and has a story willing to be shared with, I would love the opportunity to discuss that for a podcast episode, for some video content over at Nathan Morris Music on YouTube, specifically even this podcast, because I think people would be intrigued and interested to know and hear about it. I am very intrigued by this idea of otherworldly experiences. And if somebody, please follow me on TikTok at Nathan Morris Music and send us a direct message, share a video that has released over there, and we can get the word out. Maybe we can have that fall on ears and have that conversation, because that would be very interesting. And of course, being spooky season, we can't go without talking about, I don't know about you, you can't pay me. Like, haunted houses have a fee. For instance, I have a friend who paid $100 for a haunted house, and then on top of that, they paid $80 more for the fast pass, so they didn't have to wait in line. I wouldn't pay $1. I would not pay $1. And with it being Halloween season and spooky season at that, we were talking about the most haunted places. There was a former funeral home for sale in Massachusetts. I wonder if it's still for sale or if it's sold. You can get it for a whopping $700,000. It was massive, built in the 1800s, and most certainly probably haunted. I lived above a funeral home, and I would hear stuff frequently, and it was never anything that felt heavy or uncomfortable. It's like people talk about ghosts or spirits or energy or whatever, and I always focus on the energy aspect, because if you ever walked into a room, ever a bar, a restaurant, somewhere where there's a gathering, have you ever felt uncomfortable with the people, right? You walk and they look at you funny and you just feel something. It's not here. It's not so much here. It's not an insecurity. It's a feeling. That's what I compare it to. And so when I lived above the funeral home, I never had this this ick feeling. And for those of you listening, I'm looking at the camera because every podcast is in video format at Nathan Morris Music on YouTube, where you can find exclusive content. Be sure to subscribe to me over there. And thanks for everybody for watching on YouTube. But I think about that from the standpoint of these eerie places, specifically speaking, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium in my home state in Louisville, Kentucky. I don't know if you've heard of Waverly Hills before. Waverly Hills is notorious. It's actually penned one of the most haunted places in America. For those of you who are listening outside of the United States, Louisville, Kentucky has what used to be a tuberculosis hospital. This hospital is so massive. It had 400 rooms for patients, and it was essentially its own city. It had its own zip code. It had its own post office, and nurses and doctors and staff who worked at the hospital were not allowed to leave because tuberculosis was such a tough, scary disease, highly contagious disease. And the hospital was built in 1909, finished in 1910, and that's spooky enough as it is. This hospital looks, to this day it stands, and it was purchased in 2001 by the Mattingly family, who still host tours. You could pay to have a tour, a guided tour, a paranormal tour where you're able to go and study and actually try to capture something, or you could pay $1,000 for an overnight. Hell no. There was a paranormal group doing its research in 2000 22, so last year, and the tornado warning, the sirens were going off. They escaped the hospital through a 600-foot body chute. Why the body chute? So the hospital was built and finished in 1910. Thousands of patients died from tuberculosis. And so how they transferred the deceased in such swift manner so that they could free the room up, so that staff could tend to, they would place the loved one in a chute, and the chute would shoot the body down into an area. And this same chute is actually where they say most of the activity happens. Noises, screams, you name it, it happens. If you research Waverly Hills, there is so many sightings where people see things. They hear things are slammed. You hear screaming and noises and crying, and holy hell, you can't pay me enough money to go there. It's very scary to think about that is literally a hop, skip, and a jump in Kentucky. But the chute itself was where, in 2022, where these paranormal investigators escaped because there was a tornado about to happen, and they're like, holy crap, we need to get to safety. And if you look at any photos of Waverly Hills, it's not structurally compromised per se overall, but they had to get out to safety. So they're like, let's go down this body chute. No, thank you. No, thank you. It is a place not for the faint of heart, in other words. And there are tons of places throughout the United States. One of the funeral homes that I've worked at was built in 1841. 1841. Think about the hundreds of families, the thousands of families, just like the hospital. These loved ones, these families come through the four walls, and most all are good. But there may be some that, and it's not by my judgment, but there may be some that were filled with heaviness and anger and sadness, and they might have brought some, going back, I keep calling it energy. That's the only thing I could think of to call it, but there's some weight to it. But I am certain that I said I didn't believe in ghosts for the longest time, and people would ask in TikTok lives at Nathan Morris Music, they say, do you believe in ghosts? I'm like, no. And I say that because I don't like getting into this deep conversation about people's experiences are their own, and can't argue that you have or haven't had one. But how do you explain noises or sounds, or you can call it wind or drifts, whatever? It's always interesting nonetheless. So I guess to revise my answer, do you believe in ghosts? It's interesting. It's interesting, the paranormal. You'll never find me at the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. You could find me online looking at it, but nowhere else. I won't pay for a haunted house. I won't pay for a real haunted house. I did one time have a haunted house in my backyard in like 4th grade, and it was awesome. I had a broken piece of fence lying down, and I hid behind it, and I had my clothing stuffed with newspapers. It was freaking pathetic. It's so stupid. I had these plastic tombstones with the arch. It was so dumb, and they glowed in the dark. So scary. People came through, and my child mind thinks that like thousands came through, when it's probably just my mom and dad. They went through and changed clothes, and they went back through. My little brother John was in it, and he was probably 5 at the time, 6. So hell, he was very scary. So if anybody went through that and want to share that they did, I would love to hear it. That would be amazing. I remember whenever Halloween was going on, or right before Halloween, we went all out. It wasn't just, oh, I'm going to throw a sheet. I remember being a mummy one year, and my mother is so artistic, and she's able to do incredible makeup, and I was a vampire one year. Who'd have thought? And I would get so excited until the day of. And I don't know if it was just because whenever I was a little kid, people trick-or-treated in droves. The streets were packed, like how the movies depict it, where there's people everywhere. And nowadays you go to I don't know, how do you feel about that? But like you go to a parking lot that's illuminated by the parking lot lights, and people back their cars in, and they sit in a trunk of a car and it's trunk or treat, and they do it at churches and stuff. I know, I get safety. Safety is super important. I'm not pushing any other thing other than that's not what we had. We had, let's go wander around the streets in the dark by ourselves using a pillowcase. We're 10 years old. We promise we'll be safe. It just was a totally different time. But I remember the day of Halloween, and whenever the sun started to go down, I would freak out. I would panic. I would be like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to go out. I would get so worked up to not want to go out. I don't know if it was because I was scared of what I would see, or if I was scared of, we had this record, like an actual record player that played haunted, spooky sounds. And it wasn't like the cheesy kind. It was the creepy kind. It was the creepiest of noises. And we had this massive 2 speakers, and they'd be playing like ominous sounds while people were knocking on the doors, trick or treat. And this is my kid mind. And I was so scared. I was terrified, horrified of that. And Halloween was always such a big to do. My dad, we would carve these pumpkins, and they looked so elaborate. Now you have the kits, and I believe, had the kits, but there was always pumpkins perfectly carved at the appropriate time. Because if you carve too quick, then then it starts to rot, and it's terrible. So we always had that. It was always like the experience was great beforehand, but then I'd be freaked out the day of. And ever since then, it ruined me. I think I recall one time I went to a haunted house. One time. And I managed to venture, like, not the path, but ended up behind the scenes. And the people were talking. They're like, oh, you need to go this way. I was so scared. It was at the Owensboro Sports Center. And it probably wasn't scary, but I was mortified. And I have yet to go back to a haunted house, nor would I go to a haunted house. And you couldn't pay me to watch a scary movie. I hate them. Scary movies, no thank you. I want to watch a comedy, or I want to watch Christmas movies. The spooky season, I'll skip that. We'll go straight to putting up the Christmas tree to then have Christmas for 3 months. It all blends together because on Halloween night one year, we did put up the Christmas tree. It stayed up. I'm a Christmas guy. Spooky stuff. So back to people, you love this. You love the crazy stuff. If you have or know someone who has had a near-death experience, a death experience that they would be comfortable discussing and talking about, I would love the honor to speak with them, asking questions so that we can perhaps release the story on a future episode of You'll Die Trying, or on YouTube at Nathan Morris Music. Be sure to subscribe over there. Also, TikTok subscriber lives, only exclusive, first looks, first listens, $5.99 a month. All of these links are linked in the show notes. And speaking of records, I want to find the spooky sound. I want to find that spooky sound record. If I had it my way, I would skip this holiday, and you may hex me for it, but then I wouldn't, because again, time. It's a non-replenishable resource. And this is all we have, this moment. And I enjoy being here with you. And if that means being scared, so be it. I don't know if you believe in what you believe in regards to near-death experiences, coming back, or if you believe in paranormal or ghosts or whatever you want to call it, or energy. There are a lot of people who are intrigued by it. And if you are, then you could pay $1,000 to stay overnight at Waverly Hills, or just Google it like I do. And I hope that whatever it is you do, you stay safe and know that you're appreciated and valued. And I meet you right here. And know this, you're loved far more than you could ever know. If I could skip through Halloween, I would say, yeah, a lot of you have gifts to be thinking about, because yes, the Christmas holidays are around the corner. In my show notes, I'm going to link one of my favorite gifts that I think would be a very kind gesture. It's my journal book. It's awesome. It's leather bound, and the pages look very aged, and it'd be a great little gift to get to not only family members, but maybe some coworkers, staff, employees. Be a nice little gesture for you. So link that right there in the show notes. And Be sure to follow me on TikTok at Nathan Morris Music, Instagram at Nathan Morris, YouTube for exclusive content. And I just want you to know that good is good enough. You can overthink it. You can redo and do, but showing up is most important. I'm excited to show you the new studio that we're working on. So that's why you see me in the dark, illuminated by purple and blue lights. Because pretty soon you're going to see a finished product. Yet 16 at radio. Last time, pre-save it right now. Link in the show notes. The top 3 most added songs next to Taylor Swift and NSYNC this week. That's wild. Show up for yourself. Show up for others. Be kind. Kindness wins every single time. Do not fight anger with anger. Choose good. And I will see you at 1-7. Can you believe we've had 169 episodes? That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay. We'll see you soon. And let me know if you go to Waverly Hills. But yeah, I'm not going to go. Okay, bye.